What is Treaty of Peace 2020? An in-hand arbitration award ordering the establishment of immunity, free will. The following is not meant to be condescending. I, like many Americans, grew up in and was conditioned into perceiving that people are to be compliant with, work for, and not question the government. The phrase government of, by, and for the people was just a nice idea. I was wrong. Really short explanation. When a contract's rule or rules are violated, the contract is void. A contracting party is no longer bound to the contract. One option is form a new contract. Example, an employee for the McDonald's Corporation signs an employment agreement. The employee decides to leave when he feels like it or he refuses to wear the expected attire. Employment contract is terminated, or maybe a new agreement contract is formed for him to paint the garbage bin. Really short explanation. When America was formed because a long train of abuses were put to King George and unresolved, the colonists declared allegiance, the contract, to Britain void. The colonists' representatives formed a new contract between the people and the government called the American Constitution. Yes, that contract was imperfect, and one can argue that the people themselves didn't individually sign on to the contract, but try as one may, going back to the Garden of Eden before the apple is impossible. Few, if any prospective McDonald employees, argue that the employment contract is perfect. Really short explanation. A background was laid, knowledge and experience acquired, in a period beginning in February 24, 2015 to December 7, 2018. It involved petitioning and actions in different levels of government, but mainly focused at the state level in West Virginia. What was learned is that all levels of government are incorporated and refuse to acknowledge contract violations or even answer petitions to that effect. We operated in full transparency and with clean hands, but the purported government officials did not operate in full transparency or with clean hands. On December 7, 2018, a series of steps were taken beginning with a demand to the three branches of the federal government for proof of U.S. government authorization for 573 points of operation. No response equaled tacit admission to the contrary. A new contract J316 FGSLTWTHGHOBS was then offered by us. No response meant the new contract had been accepted. We offered conflict resolution. No response meant that the arbitration arrangement and the new contract therein is agreed to. Arbitration at our request commenced and no response from the U.S. government to attend the arbitration hearing rendered an arbitration award in favor of the 4 men and 1 woman petitioners. The settlement phase for the arbitration order will commence January 7, 2019 in the United States Congress. An opt-in construct of contract J316 FGSLTWTHGHOBS enables the opportunity for all American men and women to be beneficiaries of the settlement. In the simplest sense, American beneficiaries are ordered to receive immunity from interfacing with government in the same manner as a diplomat on American soil. A complete description of the settlement demand is on www.hudoc.info, which is the dedicated website chronicling the entire Treaty of Peace 2020 story from the beginning. Short explanation, full explanation can be found on www.hudoc.info, and if you really want to knock yourself out, there are 35 pounds of documents, just saying. What eventually led to an arbitration award, the validation of contract J316 FGSLTWTHGHOBS and ordering of provisions therein for which all Americans can opt in, began on February 24, 2019 with a petition for redress of grievances and acceptance of oath of office as a contract in the West Virginia House of Delegates. It was clearly evident that the Constitution of West Virginia was and is clearly being violated. Just on the surface, read Article 1 Section 3 and Article 6 Section 47, not to mention all levels of state government being incorporated. Documents were served on the Governor and Attorney General and led to Case 150491 filed in West Virginia Supreme Court. After much chicanery, all 5 Supreme Court justices were added as defendants in amended Case 150491. Mysteriously, after the filing the amended case reported in the Elkins Intermountain newspaper, the court realized that they had actually dismissed the case 10 days earlier. Very interesting considering the justices would have been replaced by circuit court judges and 4 of the 5 who were still on the bench were impeached by the West Virginia House of Delegates for unrelated matters. But all this was only background for Treaty of Peace 2020. We worked our way up the food chain to the U.S. corporate structure of which all state corporations are de facto instrumentalities. This is exactly the opposite of what the framers intended. It is indisputable that the U.S. Constitution is and has been violated in multiple egregious ways, a few examples being 1. Unconstitutional wars. 2. Unconstitutional fraudulent money. 3. Unlawfully delegating monetary responsibility to the private Federal Reserve. 4. Establishing government of buy-in for the corporations, not government of buy-in for the people. In 2018, on December 7, a date said to live in infamy, a document titled Conditional Acceptance for Value Upon Proof of Claim was served on all three branches of the federal government requesting lawful authorization for 573 points of claim. Included in the document were 70 scriptural references and 400 maxims of evidence of government misconduct and mismanagement. Because we received no reply, the contract called the U.S. Constitution was proved void. We were now at liberty to 1. Offer a new contract. 2. Under a new law form, and 3. Stipulate the sole means to resolve any failure to come to an agreement. Such was accomplished in a second document titled Opportunity to Cure, submitted the new contract, J316 FGSLTWTHGHOBS, under the Creator's law form of truth and justice, with arbitration being the only means for future dispute resolution. When again, no reply was forthcoming, a third document titled Dispute Negotiation was served asking for resolution of the dispute. Sadly, the U.S. government had 3 opportunities and each time failed to answer our reasonable requests or counter our offers. Hence the normal means for redress of grievances was exhausted, necessity called for arbitration as the accepted, established, and process agreed upon by the silence on the government's part on 3 separate occasions. An arbitration award affirming contract J316 FGSLTWTHGHOBS to make us whole was ordered. The efficacy of arbitration is illustrated by the following. 1. In 2016, Congress passed a bill on the private side, and overrode an Obama veto to enforce an arbitration order for a plaintiff and opt-ins in a settlement that had many similarities to, but not having the scope of, Treaty of Peace 2020. 2. In 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the use of arbitration as a means to settle civil rights violations cases. 3. In 2019, Hank Johnson sponsored a bill that is still pending which, if passed, would rescind arbitration for future civil rights violations. In the preceding first example, a congressional bill on the private side was used to remedy a government wrong. While still practiced today, it was once a much more common avenue for remedy. That fact is evident in, for example, the 1838 congressional record. A bill on www.hudoc.info titled Congressional Private Side Enforcement Bill has been crafted for this purpose. A summary of it is Congressional Private Side Enforcement Bill has been crafted for this purpose. A summary of it is Summary of Bill. Additionally, an executive order yet to be released has been crafted for President Trump for Treaty of Peace 2020 enforcement. President Trump could fulfill his campaign promise to restore the American people's sovereignty by issuing an executive order. There is no cost or risk, but there is a December 25 deadline for opting in. The opting in document is on the website. Opt-in fillable, opt-in non-fillable. We are not suggesting that the current form of government be abolished. Our action is Treaty of Peace 2020, not War of 2020. Those satisfied with the current de facto government are free to obey its dictates. The Founding Fathers chose the Creator's law form and established a unique government with unalienable rights. The act of rendering unto God what is God's and not rendering unto Caesar what is God's is reminiscent of what the Apostle Paul preached to the early Christians. The apostles and early Christians simply wanted to live in peace in obedience to the Creator. It motivated the Pilgrims to leave Europe and established a Christian community in the New World. A true warrior for Christ, Mark Lerner has written a piece outlining the parallels Treaty of Peace 2020 with the beginnings of Christianity. Consider the following justifications for Treaty of Peace 2020. Government is instituted for the common good, for the protection, safety, prosperity, and happiness of the people, and not for profit, honor, or private interest of any one man, family, or class of men. Therefore, the people alone have an incontestable, unalienable, and indefeasible right to institute government, and to reform, alter, or totally change the same, when their protection, safety, prosperity, and happiness require it. John Adams. Consider the following responsibility that comes with the Freedom of Treaty of Peace 2020. We have staked the whole future of our new nation, not upon the power of government, far from it. We have staked the future of all our political constitutions upon the capacity of each of ourselves to govern ourselves according to the moral principles of the Ten Commandments of God. James Madison. The Bible is the best of all books, for it is the Word of God and teaches us the way to be happy in this world and in the next. Continue therefore to read it and to regulate your life by its precepts. John J. Religion and morality are the essential pillars of a civil society. George Washington. Sincerely. Philip Huddock.